Ian Lindsay of Lindsay and Associates has played an active role in the local community since 1979. He has been with RE/MAX, Vancouver Island's most advanced real estate business network, since 1996, marketing and selling residential, rural, strata, recreational, investment, and project development real estate. You'll find true real estate professionals at ianlindsay.ca.
Peter and Dave, they're on the mic, so right. Join the ride, it's gonna feel just right.
Welcome back to the Pulse Community Podcast. I'm Dave Graham, and we are back with another look at what life is like in the mid-Vancouver Island region.
And I'm Peter McCully. Life is moving outdoors more and more. With the warm, sunny weather over the weekend, the parks were full, and the beaches and the trails were busy. A few folks were even seen swimming in the ocean.
Oh, I've been doing some swimming myself, I tell you. Swimming in memories. No, I'm still going through my garage. And I'm mostly swimming in spider webs and dust and wading through what is essentially a time capsule of my life.
And Dave, how's that been going?
A, I'm tired of swimming, and B, I think I feel a garage sale coming on. Well, but honestly, Peter, I think it's time I admit that I will not be able to finish all the projects I had started, and plans for other projects just might not ever come to be. So much for building a loom so I could weave my own clothing.
Well, I think you'll be pleased to know that we have a guest today who can help you with one thing on your list, your mint gardening. Debora Gurrad is a certified master gardener with the Vancouver Island Master Gardeners Association.
Everything, no matter what kind of garden you have. Do your soil prep first. You're going to add compost. You're going to add your organic fertilizer. You're going to mulch if you haven't already done that. And starting seeds either in the garden for cool weather crops. There are cool weather crops that you can plant in the garden right now. Things like all the cabbage family, broccoli, kale, all of those kinds of guys you can plant right in the garden. Peas, you can plant in the garden. Spinach, lettuce, all of those will sprout in the garden right now. So you can plant those out.
So much information. Good thing we have a transcript of the show on our website, because I'm too busy to take notes. I've been studying the art of smoking food lately, and I want to plant some hardwood trees so that someday I can smoke my own food with my own homegrown wood chips. That's going full on Martha right there. But now I'm wondering about more than smoked meat and fish. What about vegetables? Has that been done? Maybe some time in a smoker would improve the taste of kale.
Yeah, not much would improve the taste of kale, Dave. And I'm pretty sure that's not how it works. Also joining us today, Ajay Blue Jay Friese. He grew up right here on Vancouver Island and has gone on to carve out an impressive career as both an actor and a singer-songwriter. You may know him from Lost in Space, an American classic. He recently released his debut album, Postcards.
I remember when they pitched it to me, which was a premiere of the second season, and one of the producers took me aside and he's like, "We're thinking about having you sing." It took me completely by surprise, and it was like the most exciting thing I could possibly hear and the biggest compliment.
And there is another remarkable story on the Pulse podcast, Vancouver Island Kid on Lost in Space. I remember watching the original TV show when I was a kid, and I enjoy the reboot from a few years ago. Danger, Will Robinson. Oh, that robot was great. Oh, I could use a robot like that. It would have kept me from getting anywhere near my garage.
We're excited to be presenting some other guests in the future, Dave, such as Tom Seawood, a Vancouver Islander now living in Washington State. He will be joining us ahead of the Squatch Watch Conference in the Comox Valley. Tom has some things to say about Bigfoot.
The Squatch Watch Conference is going to be held over 3 days later this month, and I just wanted to let everyone know that Sasquatch Pizza will be there, but Sasquatch Pizza contains no Sasquatch.
Sean Thomas, actor, singer-songwriter, and music producer, who has worked with Debbie Gibson and New Kids on the Block, will be here with his new record.
The youngest member of New Kids on the Block is now 53 years old. I don't know if they gave that much thought when they launched the group back in the 80s.
And we'll be joined by Jeff Verco and Bonnie Bartlett of Forward House in Parksville, where remarkable work is being done in support of adults living with mental health and addiction recovery challenges.
This world can be challenging to anyone's coping skills, and the good people at Forward House are available to help anyone who feels they need it. We need to keep working to normalize conversations about mental health. I'm looking forward to this one.
And Sarah Ronald will be here from the Parksville Museum, They have an author series and a concert series to tell us about.
Hello?
Hi, is this Jillian Nisbet?
Yep.
Hey, Jillian, it's Peter McCully calling from the Pulse Community Podcast.
Hi.
I bet you know why I'm calling.
I think so.
You entered our Rock the Range contest to see 5440 along with some other bands in Qualicum Beach in September, and Dave Graham just pulled your name from the draw drum.
I'm right on. Woo!
I take it you're a 5440 fan.
Oh, long time. Yeah. They've been around since I've been around. They're probably maybe 5 years older than I am, and I'm not telling you my age. That's awesome.
Yeah, these tickets are for September 12th for Rock the Range in Qualicum Beach, and it is the only appearance by 5440 on Vancouver Island this year.
That's going to be a fun night.
I think so. Kyle McCarney's going to be there. He's pretty good. Chris Buck Band and the Steadies, so some good tunes.
Oh, wow. Is this the first time they've been doing this? Because I've never heard of this venue before.
No, it's brand new.
Right on. Well, I look forward to it, and I thank you very much.
Oh, you're quite welcome, and thanks for listening to the Pulse Community Podcast.
All right. Thank you.
There's exciting news for book lovers. Fireside Books in Parksville now has a second location in Port Alberni. The Bookworm. Used books are just $5 or less. The Bookworm on the corner of Redford and Anderson opens 7 days a week from 10 to 5. Building your personal library for less. Fireside Books at 464 Island Highway East in Parksville is a book dragon's dream come true. Browse their extensive collections 7 days a week. Both locations make growing your personal library easier than ever. New and used books and so much more. Order online at firesidebooks.ca and pick up at either location. Details available online. Ask about returning books for a book credit. Fireside Books and the Bookworm. 2 locations, one amazing adventure in browsing.
We have another fantastic new contest to share with you. We're giving away tickets to the Boots and Boats Singer-Songwriter Festival in Nanoose Bay. It's a 3-day event on the water with over 20 artists performing. Think of lawn chairs, ocean air, and incredible live music.
I want to offer extra thanks to our prize department because this summer is turning out to be exceptional when it comes to freebies. So stay with us for a chance to win tickets to April Wine, Beach Fest Rocks, and the concert that is so big it made the news, Blue Rodeo, playing a sold-out show at Parksville's world-class outdoor theater August 21st. And someone, might as well be you, is going to win tickets.
Head to thepulsecommunity.ca or our Facebook or Instagram pages for details on all contests. And while you're there, please sign up for our newsletter and keep up with the latest podcast guests and giveaways. Here comes Marilyn to introduce our first guest.
Debora Gurrad has been passionate about growing things since childhood, a love that was truly sparked by a university botany class. After moving to Vancouver Island in 2017, she completed her training and became a certified master gardener with Vancouver Island Master Gardeners Association. Her special interests include pruning, root preparation for successful transplanting, and food gardening. A retired teacher who still loves to educate, she presents workshops on gardening topics from Campbell River to Nanaimo.
Thanks for joining us on the podcast today, Debora.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
For listeners who may not be familiar with the Master Gardener program, can you explain what it means to be a certified Master Gardener and what the Vancouver Island Master Gardeners Association does?
Sure. The Master Gardener movement started 53 years ago in Washington State when county extension agents who were tasked with spreading agricultural research out to farmers found themselves getting lots of questions from home gardeners that they couldn't answer and didn't have time to answer. So they got the idea to train a group of volunteers to be those advice givers for home gardeners. So the very first cohort of master gardeners were trained and certified in 1973 and began advising home gardeners. And the movement spread from there. Today, it's in all 50 states. It's all across Canada. It's even started in the UK. There are something like 50,000 master gardeners. We go through a certification process. It starts with a course. We call it our advanced gardening course. It's just the basics of gardening, and it covers everything. Depending on the chapter, you're in either a 1 or a 2-year period of internship where you are mentored through learning how to volunteer and give advice to the public. And at the end of that, you're a certified master gardener. It's just a wonderful program. We're all absolutely volunteer. We never take money for anything we do. We're all passionate about gardening, and we want to share what we know and help educate the public. And that's what we do.
I'm happy you're on the podcast today to answer some of our questions. And the first one would be, if somebody is standing in their garden right now looking at what's facing them for the season, what are the top 3 things they should be thinking about or doing?
It's too soon to do a lot of things, but the things that you can be doing right now, the first one I would say is go to your local nurseries, buy plants for your patio containers and pots and your hanging baskets. It's still a bit too early to plant them outside, but they sell out fast. So if you want a selection, now's the time to go look. There will be lots of great stuff. Another thing you could be doing now is starting seeds indoors for tender vegetables like tomatoes, squash, peppers, things like that, cucumbers, that it's too cold for. They won't germinate when the soil is cold. If you plant them, little already started plants out when the soil is cold, it will stunt them and they will never recover. So start them from seed indoors now, and they'll be ready to plant out in about 6 weeks when the soil is warm, and they'll just take off and be ready to go. The other thing I would suggest is adding a 1 to 2 inch layer of compost to your garden beds if you haven't already done so. Compost is a wonderful organic amendment to the soil that will feed your soil. It's a slow release kind of thing. The soil microbes that are already in the soil work on the compost and break down the nutrients so that they're available to the plants. This is a good time of year to get that on the soil. You could even work it in a little bit, but don't disturb the soil underneath too much. But those are the 3 main things that you could be doing right now.
The month of May can feel like a race against time if you have a big garden and lots to do, seeds to start, seedlings, soil to prep. How do you help people prioritize all of that so they get it in the right order and they don't get overwhelmed?
That's a really good question because this can be a really overwhelming time of year. The first thing I would say is that everything starts with the soil in your garden. Everything, no matter what kind of garden you have. Do your soil prep first. You're going to add compost. You're going to add your organic fertilizer. You're going to mulch if you haven't already done that. And starting seeds either in the garden for cool weather crops. There are cool weather crops that you can plant in the garden right now. Things like all the cabbage family, broccoli, kale, all of those kinds of guys you can plant right in the garden. Peas, you can plant in the garden. Spinach, lettuce, all of those will sprout in the garden right now. So you can plant those out. The tender ones, like I said earlier, start them indoors. Another really important task to do right now is get on top of the weeds now before they go to seed. You will thank yourself later. If you can pull out everything that's going to go to seed before it does, your weed problem will be 80% less throughout the summer. It will be amazing. If you do just those 3 things this month, you will be well set for the gardening season.
Poor Dave Graham, my co-host, is overwhelmed, and he only has a pot of mint.
I have to say, good for him for keeping it in a pot, because if you put mint in the ground, it will spread and overtake. And you'll have mint forever.
Yes, I found that out the hard way.
Yes, lots of people have.
Is there a last frost rule of thumb for the Mid-Island area that home gardeners should follow before putting the plants out?
We used to consider the May long weekend as the last frost-free sort of rule. But with climate change, anything goes. We're just not sure anymore. I would say pay attention to the weather forecasts. If the weather seems to be warming, you can put plants out. Probably not until the 1st of May at least, but you can put plants out. You can plant them, the ones that are tender. But pay attention and be vigilant. If there is a forecast for frost overnight, you can cover and protect these young tender plants that you have just set out. Even if you do protect them, if the soil is cold, they're not going to do well. So it's really better to wait till the soil's warm. If the soil is warm and you still pay attention for a couple weeks in case there's a frost, you can protect them from that with a row cover kind of thing, or you can take a big milk carton and cut the bottom off of it. You can just stick that over a plant and that'll protect it from frost. The temperature of the soil should be 10 degrees. Actually, stick a thermometer in the soil. Once it's 10 degrees, those things that are a little more tender can be planted out.
Tomatoes or tomatoes are probably the number one thing that Mid-Island gardeners grow and want to grow. What's the most common mistake people make with tomatoes or tomatoes?
I can think of two, actually. And the first one is planting them out too early because they're tender. And everybody's always anxious. They want those tomatoes to get out there and get growing, and they want them to ripen. What it does if you put them out too early, when the soil is cold and the air is cold, even if there's no frost damage, it really stunts and slows down their growth, and they don't recover as well as they would have if you planted them out when the soil was warm. So be patient. Okay. The second thing that a lot of people have trouble with that causes trouble is uneven watering. That means you water really thoroughly and deeply, and then you may not water for a while, and then things get too dry, and then, oops, I forgot to water my tomatoes, and then you water them deeply again. What that causes, believe it or not, is blossom end rot. The information is out there that blossom end rot is caused by a lack of calcium. It's not a lack of calcium in the soil. Our soils are not calcium deficient. The uneven watering causes a problem with the plant uptaking calcium. So that's what blossom end rot comes from. So evenly moist is the best way to go with tomatoes.
Slugs and deer are the bane of every vegetable gardener's existence and everybody with flowers. What are the most effective ways to manage those deer and slugs without reaching for chemicals?
That's a tough one. First of all, there are no deer-proof plants. There are deer-resistant, but a hungry deer will eat just about anything. Now, there are some things I've seen they will never eat. They really won't eat really aromatic herb-type vegetables like thyme or oregano. They won't eat lavender. It's got those aromatic oils, and they will not eat those. But pretty much everything else, especially when they're really hungry. And in the spring, things that they normally won't eat, you say, oh, the spring, the deer ate my rhodos, my new growth of my rhodos. If you really take a look, usually what you find is the new growth was bitten off and then it's lying on the ground. What that is the fawns are testing and tasting things and figuring out what is good food and what isn't. So they'll bite it off and say, I don't like this, and they'll just spit it out on the ground. There's some things you can do. Sort of the first line of defense is a fence. I know that's not always possible. My backyard is completely fenced, but my front yard is not. I have to plant deer-resistant things in my front yard. Otherwise, I've just planted a deer buffet, a salad bar, if you will, and they come through and eat things. But my backyard, I have a 6-foot-high wooden fence. Now, a deer can jump something like 8 to 10 feet straight in the air and over something. But they will not jump if they cannot see a clear landing place. When you've got a solid fence they can't see through, they won't jump over it because they don't know what's on the other side. That's a good defense. Now, if you can't build a fence, then you do things like if you have a garden bed, say that's a couple meters wide, and you've got things at the back like roses and hydrangeas that you want to protect that the deer love, plant a row along the front of one of those aromatics like lavender. And that can be a barrier to keep the deer from stepping over and munching on the ones that they do like. There are deer and rabbit both deterrents that are, it's an organic, all completely natural, nasty smelling stuff that comes in a concentrate that you mix with water and spray on your plants. Deer are herbivores. They don't eat anything animal products. They just eat plants. But you spray this stuff on the plants and it makes it smell like an animal product, generally a decomposing one. And the deer are like, that's not food, and they'll just walk right by it. In the spring, you have to spray about once a week for a month or so. Okay, visualize you've got new growth coming out, you spray, and then in another week, that new growth has expanded, and that new growth doesn't have any spray on it, and it doesn't smell like the other stuff does, so the deer may munch it. So if you spray it about once a week, the other thing you're doing besides deterring them in the moment, you're teaching them that plant is not food. And after a while, they'll just walk right by it. So those are pretty darn effective. The smell of that spray, it's really awful when you're spraying. It can smell like a combination of rotten eggs and vomit and blood. It's horrible. But as soon as it dries, you can't smell it. I usually wear some terrible clothes. I spray it at the end of the day out in the garden. I spray because they get it all over me. And then I go in the house and I strip off all my clothes, put them in the laundry, and take a shower because it's terrible stuff. It really is.
It is.
But it works. It's a bit of bother, but if you can't put up a good fence, it's worth it to be on top of that for about a month or so in the spring. The easiest way to deal with slugs is slug bait. It is completely non-toxic to animals, people, plants, because it's just an iron compound that stops the slug from eating, so they die. The rain dissolves the uneaten pellets and actually adds a bit of iron to your soil. So slug bait, just don't even fuss with little dishes of beer. I tried that years ago. It attracts slugs from maybe a meter away or half a meter, but it doesn't get all of them. Slug bait is the way to go.
These days, we've got lots of folks who are downsizing. Now they have limited space, smaller yards, maybe just a balcony or a patio and a few containers. What vegetables give the best return on investment and actually produce something that you could eat in a limited area?
The first one is tomatoes. Oh my gosh, tomatoes will do great in a pot. There are two kinds of tomatoes. There are the ones whose growth habit is vining, which means it'll just continue to grow and get taller and taller. If you want to plant one in a pot, you want one that's called determinate, which means it has a genetic predetermined height, and it'll only get this so tall. And they do great in pots. Now, the downside, the determinant, the ones that are a predetermined height, only bear for a few weeks in the summer, and then they're done. But if you start with one and then you start the seeds for another one, say a month later, you can space out and have production for longer. The indeterminate ones will bear right up till frost, but they get big and long. And if you had a trellis or something, you could twine them on, that'd be great. But tomatoes do fine in pots. Anything that has a shallowish root system, like lettuce or spinach, those do great in a pot. And you don't even need a deep pot. You can get a wide, shallowish one and broadcast your leaf lettuce seeds or your spinach, and they do fine. Those actually are happier if they don't have hot afternoon sun. So you can put those in a spot in your patio or your yard where it's a little bit shady in the afternoon, and they'll do just great. The other one is bush beans, green beans that are a bush rather than a tall vining one. They will grow to be about 1.5 meters by 1.5 meters, an actual bush, and they will do fine. One plant will do fine in a pot. They will bear a whole lot of beans for 2-3 weeks, maybe more than you can eat fresh, but there's certainly enough that you could freeze. I like to grow pole beans because the production is slower, and then I can just eat beans like every day all summer. The bush beans would be great in a pot as well. Just think anything with a sort of shallowish, more root system will be fine.
Deborah, more and more homeowners are ripping out their lawns and replacing it with something that doesn't require a lot of water, a lot of constant watering. Where do you even begin with a project like that?
It depends on how much work you want to do and how big a hurry you're in. There's lots of things you can do. For instance, my lawn, I've planted, it's got about 1/3 clover. And clover is great in a lawn because it has a taproot that goes more deep than grass roots do. So it stays green when the grass is starting to go brown. It also makes its own fertilizer. So if you have poor soil in your lawn, the clover will fix nitrogen from the air and make its own fertilizer. I've planted tiny little wildflowers in my lawn. All of those have deeper root systems and can stand not as much water, turning it into sort of a quasi meadow. The other thing is you could go full on meadow, and you can buy seed mixes that are meadow plants that are a whole lot of flowers and grasses and things. They're going to be a bit taller than a lawn. So if you like that sort of flat manicured look, you're not going to get that with a meadow. It's a whole different effect. The other thing is, if you want to eliminate the lawn altogether, you need to decide what you're going to replace it with, because that's going to determine what you do and how much work. Sometimes you can just make flower beds. You can plant vegetables. There have been times I have taken in my front yard, for instance, that everybody sees, and I've planted a squash plant. Great big beautiful green leaves, and it trails among everything else and shelters and covers up the soil and the mulch and everything. They're quite attractive. So you could do that too. But the other thing you can decide if you want is a rock garden. Now, my front yard is not very big, but there's no lawn at all. It's rocks and a walkway and garden beds. and a sidewalk. It's great. There's no lawn to mow. A rock garden is pretty easy to maintain if you put the right kind of plants in there, things that will do well because, a rock garden will absorb the heat from the sun and transfer that back to the plants that are planted around it. So you need things that can stand the heat if you're going to do a rock garden. But that's easy to do.
We talked about taking your front lawn and turning it into either a meadow or a rock garden. Some folks just take it all out and put in gravel, and they put black plastic weed barrier down. What should people be using as a base layer under gravel or mulch to keep the weeds down?
Here's the deal with landscape fabric or black plastic under gravel. We'll talk about mulch in a second. That's a different issue. But under gravel, it doesn't really stop the weeds. And here's why. It is impossible to keep organic matter from drifting or falling into the gravel. And what that does over time is it creates little pockets of soil that seeds will sprout in. So you'll still have stuff sprouting in the gravel on top of the black plastic. So the black plastic doesn't help at all. Now, landscape fabrics are marketed as being porous, so water will get through. For a while, that works. It doesn't take very long for all the pores in that landscape fabric to clog up, and then it's just like black plastic. Both black plastic and clogged up landscape fabric are blocking the flow of water and oxygen to the soil underneath, which is why you don't want to put it under mulch, because your soil is a living thing. It has a microbiome, bacteria and funguses and critters that are all essential to the health of the soil and the health of your plants. If you block the exchange of water and air at the surface, you're going to kill your microbiome and you're going to have dead soil. So don't put it under mulch. It's terrible stuff. It also decomposes over time and puts bits of microplastics into your soil. You don't want that either. It's just all around awful stuff, and we don't recommend it at all. People get mulch and compost confused. Mulch is a layer of organic, and by organic I mean from plants, organic matter that you put over the top of the soil to protect the soil. Compost is a layer of organic stuff that has been partially decomposed. It's used as a soil amendment, which means it is either laid on top of the soil and then worked in a bit for the purpose of feeding the soil and helping to build the soil texture, the soil structure really well. Now, mulch is pretty magic stuff. We love mulch. The best mulch is arborist wood chips. Like when you see the BC Hydro guys out there trimming trees and they've got the big truck and the chipper and it's chipping, those are the best because it has wood and it has leaves and twigs. It has all the good stuff. What you want to do with mulch, if you can, is replicate nature. So think about walking around outside in some place that somebody hasn't groomed the land. Leaves fall, twigs, dead branches, they fall. The next year comes around and more leaves and twigs and branches fall, but last year's are gone. The soil microbes have come up from underneath and decomposed them and fed the soil and broken down the nutrients that the plant can use. It's this cycle that keeps going on and on and on. When you use a mulch in your garden that is the plants itself, the dead twigs or even live branches and leaves, you're replicating nature. And it is the most healthy way to mulch your lawn. Air and water can get through. It suppresses weeds if you have at least a 4-inch deep layer. It moderates soil temperature, keeps it warmer in the winter, cooler in the summer. Our summers are getting hotter and drier. It'll help keep the moisture in the soil. Mulch is just magic stuff. That's organic from plants. That's best. Mulches that come from non-organic sources like ground up tires or stones or whatever, there's some real issues with those. If you're using them around plants, that's probably not a good idea.
Debora, Vancouver Island Master Gardeners Association has a Ask a Master Gardener service, and I know you host clinics and nurseries and garden centers up and down the island. How can listeners connect with the Vancouver Island Master Gardeners Association and get advice specific to their garden?
There's a couple ways. The first way is we have partnered with Milner Gardens and Woodland to create what's called the Garden Advice Line. And what this is, an email address. You write in your garden questions with pictures and all the details you can add. A team of master gardeners then research and send back an answer for you to your question. It's a great service. We really enjoy doing it. The other thing that you can do is our website has lots of resources on there with information about all kinds of gardening topics. There's information sheets. We're creating more of those all the time. We're actually been in the process for about 6 months of revamping our website and making it more user-friendly and having more resources on there. So our website is really simple, vimga.org. All the information about the garden advice line is actually on the website. You can find that there as well.
Debora Gurrad, she is such a great source of knowledge and hope. She inspires me to believe that my future as a mint farmer has a chance after all. You'll find links to Debora's work and to the Vancouver Island Master Gardeners Association in our story notes at thepulsecommunity.ca.
If you have someone in mind you think we should be talking to, then please speak to us. You can reach us and leave us a voice or text message. Head to our website and click on the contact link.
Also on the website, Vancouver Island webcam links and access to our archived podcasts, plus events listings and more at thepulsecommunity.ca. You can also find us on Apple, Amazon, iHeart, Spotify, TikTok, and YouTube, plus Facebook and Instagram.
The Aerosmith Community Recreation Association is hosting the 35th Annual Coombs Community Picnic on Friday, June the 5th from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. at the Coombs Fairgrounds. Come meet your neighbors and enjoy live music, field games, educational displays, and free food at the concession while supplies last. Bring your lawn chair and make it an evening at this entirely free event. We hope to see you there.
When families are supported, our whole community thrives. That's why SOS launched For Our Families, a campaign dedicated to keeping essential and enriching SOS child, youth, and family programs open, accessible, and vibrant. You can make a donation through the SOS website, and you can help by teeing off at the first ever SOS For Our Community Golf Tournament, June 6th at Morning Star Golf Club. For just $180 per person, enjoy the driving range, 18 holes of golf, a golf cart, buffet dinner, on-course challenges, the chance to win a brand new vehicle from Parksville Chrysler, and other great prizes. Bid on great local items in the silent auction. Support local children and youth. Strengthen local families. Learn more at sosd69.com.
Ian Lindsay of Lindsay and Associates has played an active role in the local community since 1979. He has been with RE/MAX, Vancouver Island's most advanced real estate business network, since 1996. Marketing and selling residential, rural, strata, recreational, investment, and project development real estate. You'll find true real estate professionals at ianlindsay.ca.
Dave, you mentioned feeling inspired about your mint now that you've heard from an expert. Do you feel ready?
Oh, that's powerful language there, Peter. I mean, ready is a big word, but I feel encouraged that any corners that I might have cut in the care of this plant may be reversible, and I'm coming to accept the fact that my standards of practice may be lacking. For example, my rule of watering when I remember to might not be adequate. Like most things in life, it's a work in progress.
Our next guest has made his mark on stages and screens from Vancouver Island to around the world. Here's Marilyn.
Ajay Friese grew up on Vancouver Island and has gone on to carve out an impressive career as both an actor and a singer-songwriter. You may know him from Netflix hits like Lost in Space and Riverdale, and he's currently starring alongside Kevin Kline and Laura Linney in the new MGM Plus series American Classic. His debut album, Postcards, was recently released.
Welcome to the podcast today, Ajay.
Thank you, Peter. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm really looking forward to our chat. You grew up in Victoria, here on the island. I understand you were very musical, playing the violin before you even went to school, and later learned the drums and then the guitar. When did you know that music was going to be more than just lessons?
When I was 3 years old, my parents asked me if I wanted to start lessons in an instrument, and for some reason I said, yeah, violin. And so I started violin, and performance has always been just as common as lessons for me, whether it's recitals or performing for family functions. And when I got a bit older, I joined the BC Fiddle Orchestra under Daniel Lapp, and that was a big part of my childhood. It never was just lessons for me. It was all the core part of being able to play music. Funny story, when I was 5 or 6 years old, I performed at my great-grandma's 90th birthday party. To everyone's surprise, including my parents, I bowed at the end of the performance, and then I announced that I was retiring. And then I quit violin for a whole 2 years, and then I came out of retirement again when I was 7. So
We're glad you didn't retire, for sure.
same here.
In high school, you played the Phantom in your high school production, Phantom of the Opera. That's a pretty big deal for a teenager. You must have been nervous, or were you comfortable on stage?
It was honestly the performance highlight of my life so far, at least with acting. And I remember my parents have always had to lightly pressure me to audition for everything because I'm always just, yeah, whatever. I don't want to go to this summer camp. Then they drop me off and I don't want to come home. I don't want to leave. This was a school musical when I was in grade 12. They were like, you should audition. I'd never seen Phantom of the Opera and all. I was like, that's that like weird old poster and you know, it looks old and stuff. And then I watched the movie and the songs were stuck in my head for the next week. I remember right after seeing even half the movie, I was like, I have to audition for this. And the Phantom honestly was the experience where I really learned how to act because I became so immersed that it's one of the only times where I've gone into complete flow state for an entire full 2-hour performance. I wasn't having any of my own thoughts. I was just pacing around the stage and just quite uninhibited. So for that, honestly, I felt incredibly comfortable.
I asked Siri to look you up and tell me some of the facts about you, and she said clearly you had a lot of time on your hands because playing on the stage wasn't enough. Neither were all the musical lessons. You had to get some lessons and train as a hip-hop dancer as well.
I did. I met my best friend, Rylan, through that because we were in the carpool together. Yeah, I did hip-hop at originally Boston Dance in Victoria and then Vibe Street for 3 years. It's a lot of fun.
I have to ask, now you're in your 20s, do you regret being a hip-hop dancer? Your shoulders hurt? Your hips hurt?
Not at all. No. In fact, I'm quite grateful for it whenever I'm out at the club with friends and stuff.
Wait for your 50s. Ajay, were your parents musical or involved in the entertainment business themselves?
They were absolutely the sportive type, and they were also musical, but they were never involved in the performance business. I remember growing up and seeing my mom performing in choirs. My dad was playing a bit of guitar, and then around the time when I was 10 or so, honestly, just before I started writing songs, he started writing some songs. So they've always been musical, but we had no prior relation to the industry.
Now, as a youngster, a 6-year-old, you spent a year living in Okinawa, Japan. You must have gotten the bug because you've traveled to over 35 countries, according to Siri, including Tanzania, Peru, Nicaragua, and Norway. Did your parents actively cultivate that sense of curiosity and adventure, or was that just the household you grew up in?
Peter, I got to tell you, I was one of the luckiest kids because in a way I did, but all of that is thanks to my parents. They've always been avid travelers. They met in Okinawa, where I was born, when they were teaching English on the JET program. And my mom has hiked to Everest Base Camp when she was in her 20s. They've been all around. And when my sister and I were growing up, they would really like to take us traveling. It allowed me to grow up with the perspective of seeing people from all over the world. And I know it sounds cliche, but really seeing that people are the same everywhere.
Well, you're lucky. Your mom's family is from India. Your dad's roots are Finnish, German, Lithuanian, Polish. Has that heritage found its way into your music or your storytelling?
On both sides of my family, I have 50 to 100 first, second, and third cousins that I have relationships with to some degree. And that's on both sides of the family, my European side and my Indian side. And now they're spread all over US, Canada, Australia, Switzerland, Dubai, plus lots of people in India and Finland. In the way that it influences my writing, with such a vast kind of spread of family connections and with having gotten the privilege to travel to so many places when I was growing up, an open mind and a wide perspective, I think, is present in a lot of my writing. So I think it definitely influenced me in that way.
Acting and music require an ear, as they say, but you also have an eye, the photographer's eye. I stumbled across your images of the night sky. One of your shots appeared on National Geographic's website.
It did, when I was 16.
How did you get into night photography?
I just saw it online when I was 15, and I was like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever. I want to be able to do this. And of course, this is well before AI. You could usually tell if something is Photoshop. These were like real images of the Milky Way. And I just thought it was the most beautiful thing. And so I wanted to learn how to do it. And so I just used YouTube and bought like an entry-level Nikon DSLR, learned about long exposures and how to edit in Lightroom. And I just got really into it, honestly.
I think it's interesting that you had an interest in photography and the stars and space, and then a few years later you land on Lost in Space.
Yeah. When I first got the scripts of Lost in Space and I was reading these scenes that were taking place on alien planets, and they were describing the flora and fauna and describing the landscape. Now that I think back to it, I think I did have that feeling of like curiosity, wonder, and awe that I did looking at the night sky. And it actually brings up this funny memory that when I was 6 and living in Japan, I saw on my older sister's to-do list for her homework, it said, read Lonely Planet. And of course, Lonely Planet, the famous guidebook, but I didn't know it was a guidebook. I just saw read Lonely Planet. I remember thinking like, that sounds like the coolest novel ever. What's that about? And yeah, I do find a lot of wonder in space.
You spent about 5 years auditioning, which I understand is roughly 60 or 70 auditions before things really broke for you. What kept you going through that process? How did you mentally reset and walk into the next one?
Something that actually a lot of people might be surprised to hear is I do probably 30 to 40 auditions a year. So that's hundreds of auditions. And I started theater as a hobby when I was 11. I did that up until when I was 18. I was always just doing it for fun, but slowly I was making connections and in the Victoria theater industry, and I was working for more professional productions. Eventually I did 2 productions at the Belfry Theater. I did 5 shows at the Royal Theater with Pacific Opera Victoria. So theater was always a huge part of my life, 1 to 2 productions a year. But screen acting, as you said, that was something that from when I was 13 to when I was 18, 5 years, I auditioned and I booked 2 very small roles. I think it was because I wasn't dependent on it as a career and because I had enough other stuff going on in my life that was so fulfilling, like school, like soccer, like theater, like my friends. It never really bothered me. I also just thought, oh, it's just like throwing your ticket in a lottery. Of course, skill and talent matter, but on top of that, it felt so rare to me that I wasn't even really hoping that it would become a career until it did.
Now, in those days, that's pre-Zoom, I guess. You were probably popping on a ferry and heading to Vancouver.
Definitely, yeah. That's what most of the auditions were.
And that's a lot of sunshine breakfast.
It is. Well put. The Coastal Cafe I was well familiar with.
I love the reboot of Lost in Space because I'm old enough to have watched it live the first time around. You were a series regular across all 3 seasons of Lost in Space, which starred Molly Parker, another BC actor. What did you take away from that experience?
On screen, that experience gave me a lot of awe because we were getting to do just the craziest stuff, like have scenes by alien waterfalls and literally rock climb in outer space, but on a real rock climbing wall that was in a soundstage, and sprint down 100 meters of a spaceship corridor set, and just all these experiences that you wouldn't really get here on Earth if you weren't in a production. And then offset, I think that experience just gave me a lot of gratitude, confidence, and stability. It was 5 years of my life. It was some steadiness, some stability, some reliable work, and obviously reliable income too. I just feel so grateful for it in those ways as well.
Now, you sang on screen during Lost in Space. I think it was a version of Bob Marley's 3 Little Birds.
Indeed.
Did that moment tell you something about where your 2 careers, the acting and the music, might intersect?
I remember when they pitched it to me, which was a premiere of the 2nd season, and one of the producers took me aside and he's like, we're thinking about having you sing. It took me completely by surprise, and it was like the most exciting thing I could possibly hear and the biggest compliment. I think it gave me validation. We all need certain indicators that, okay, other people enjoy this as well. And I think to have a top tier international TV production want me to lend my voice and my guitar to that, I think, okay, they hear stuff in this too.
Talking about top tier, you're now appearing alongside Kevin Kline and Laura Linney in a new MGM Plus series called American Classic.
I am. It's crazy.
Tell us about the show and your character, Randall, I believe.
The show is hilarious. It's a heartfelt family comedy that honestly deals with some pretty real themes, but at the same time, I think the show just does such a good job at balancing tangible, relatable, small town life. That could be my theater, or that could be my neighbors, with just the most ridiculous, hilarious plot arcs and jokes. It has a lot of satire in it, but it's also incredibly heartfelt. It's about a narcissistic Broadway star played by Kevin Kline, who is fallen from grace and returns to his hometown and attempts to rebuild the family theater that he grew up and learned his craft at. My character is Randall Potts. I play Laura Linney's daughter's boyfriend. Her name is Miranda. My name is Randall, and we have a singer-songwriter duo called Mirandal. And my character is obviously a singer-songwriter, but he's also like a head-over-heels boyfriend who's, I don't really believe in like the reacher and the settler kind of theory, but if that exists, he's definitely the reacher in the relationship. And she's the only reason he's still in this town, and he's just a really sweet character to play.
Comedy has a very specific timing, and the rhythms are completely different from drama. Was that a muscle you had to develop, or did it just come to you naturally?
It definitely did not come to me naturally, which is funny because in real life, like I'm always making jokes and I'm always laughing with my friends, and it's always been that way. But whenever I would get a comedy audition, I'd be like, oh God, I don't do this. I do drama and action. And how do you make this funny? And how do you make it funny over and over again as you do more takes? That was a big learning curve, but getting cast in this show gave me the confidence that, okay, they think I can do it and they've seen me do it. Then watching a master like Kevin Kline do it just gave me so much guidance, because he just throws himself at a joke, or he's improvising, and he just commits every time, and it doesn't always land, and that's okay. And then sometimes it lands and everyone is just like dying, and you have to muffle your laugh because we're still rolling. So I think it just taught me to be a lot looser with it and just to have fun, and you don't need to nail it right away, but you got to commit.
Now, I understand you and Laura Linney are both big John Denver fans.
While I was filming American Classic, I was gearing up to release my first single from the album that I just released in March, Postcards. The first single was called The Road, and it was inspired, honestly, a lot by John Denver. I was showing it to people on set before I released it, and I was with Laura Linney in the green room one day. I asked if I could show it to her, and she put in my earphones, and then she started crying. It was really touching, and she just found it really moving, and she is a big fan of John Denver, and it reminded her of John Denver. And she told me a story about the one time that she met John Denver. There's a special connection to share with Laura Linney, someone that I idolized so much.
With the sun shining off the snow on Shasta's peak, I smile as my dad tells me he and my mom hike those hills to the east. 50-somethings on the PCT, green pine trees in towns called Weed, and rocks with art calling for fires to seize. I-5 north, I'm just in between, and I'm happy to be here on the road, have somewhere to go. Oh, I went to my first Dutch Bros, wish there was first Wednesday, cried as I passed Portland, reasons that I won't say. Fine, let it spill, it's more wonder than regret. I loved a girl 200 days and only with her I watched one sunset. Sometimes I can't take this love, it fucks me up, it makes me feel rough like sugar does, and my blood's so sweet and it burns to bleed, but I'm glad I breathe, and I'm happy to be here on the road, have somewhere to go, grateful to fall in love even if love's not what I thought it was. surround us, rich and uncontained. Faces face onwards, each and every way. There's so much I want to wander. My God, I love this life. I'm so grateful for getting tired, or else I'd never close my eyes. And when I finally die, throw me into a volcano. I'll be more at peace when my body can't be labeled. On my way back to the cradle, I'll pass through the mantle. That's where I'll dismantle. I'm grateful to be here on the road. Have somewhere to go. Be here on the road. I don't know where it goes, but I know that I'll always find home.
The Road from the album Postcards. Ajay Friese records under the name Blue Jay Friese. So when you're looking for it online, that's what you look for. Ajay, how about a speed round of questions?
Let's do it.
Electric or acoustic?
For me, it's always acoustic. I just love the tones of wood. But really, what it comes more down to is whether it's electric or acoustic, I want to hear how hard you're pressing on the strings. I want to hear all that coming out of you in real time.
Studio or live performance?
Why not make it both? 4 of the songs on my album are one takes, recorded in the studio, but definitely capturing that live essence.
Writing the song or recording it? Which do you love more?
Hard to choose because they're both just such exciting, monumental parts of the whole process. But maybe performing the song for the first time is actually one of my favorite spots.
Springsteen or Bon Jovi? And remember, your album was produced by Everett Bradley, who has worked with both.
Yes, my first album was produced by Everett Bradley, my first EP, Light a Match Then Rhyme. And he's a dear friend, and he did contributions for Postcards as well. But you're going to hate my answer on this. I've never really adequately explored Bon Jovi or Springsteen.
Road trip playlist, what's always on it?
Definitely John Denver. For the past 48 hours, I've been obsessed with Heavy Foot by Monrovia.
The most embarrassing song on your playlist?
I'm not actually really embarrassed by any music, but the one that probably you'd think I should be embarrassed by, even though it's an incredible song, The Climb by Miley Cyrus from the Hannah Montana movie. It's amazing. It's Grammy level.
Yeah.
In fact, it may have won actually a Grammy. So, yeah.
One artist, dead or alive, you'd like to share a stage with?
I would love to share a stage with James Taylor. And I would also love to share a stage with Nick Drake. He's no longer with us.
Sci-fi or drama or comedy?
I like stuff that's really well made, but grounded and slow. It doesn't catch you right away, but if you watch the first 4 minutes or something, then you're like, oh, I'm in this now. I'm here for the hour and a half or 2 hours. And I'm gonna live inside of this story right now.
Best piece of acting advice you ever received and who you received it from?
When I was filming American Classic, there's a scene where we're doing Our Town and George and Emily are talking to each other. Laura Linney was asking me, why is she upset? Why is Emily upset with Jordan? And she just kept on asking me, okay, in what ways? In what ways? Why? And she told me it's very important to get really specific with this stuff. And then once I had worked those specificities out in my head, it was like, wow, yeah, this can flow from such a more real place.
If Hollywood called tomorrow and offered you any role, what would it be?
This is a weird fantasy, but I've always really wanted to be in a drive-in movie, almost like a Need for Speed or a Fast and Furious, just one of those classic blockbuster street racing movies. I just want to be behind the wheel in one of those.
Your favorite thing about coming home to Vancouver Island?
It's the air, the smell of the ocean in the air, the smell of pine in the air. I love the rain. One of the songs on my album is about that. It's called The Rain.
If acting and music both disappeared tomorrow, what would you do with your life?
I'd probably go live in the woods and just start carving a bunch of stuff.
What's next for Ajay Friese, both on screen and as Blue Jay Friese? Where do you want to take all of this?
I really want to focus on promoting. I feel like I got a great album to share with people. And so I'm just going to be putting almost all my efforts into bringing this album to more ears, touring, promoting, social media. But yeah, just connecting more people with the music is my purpose right now.
Ajay Friese, a Vancouver Island kid who has gone out there and absolutely done it. Lost in Space, Riverdale, now in a new series with Kevin Kline and Laura Linney, now a debut album. Looking at him getting stuff done. That should inspire us all, if we aren't already, to, get stuff done, to clean out our garages in life, literal or figurative. Yeah, I'm getting eager to jump back into mine and put this task to bed. Or maybe I should just take a break from that and start a new project. I've been thinking about hand carving a chess set. Anyway, you'll find links to Ajay's music and his upcoming projects in our story notes at thepulsecommunity.ca.
Our website includes links to our Skookum Kid Stories series. We have 2 series on the go, The Mellow Submarine with Captain Dave and Peter and Gracie the Eskimo Dog. In this week's episode, Peter and Gracie find ways to conserve water. Each episode now comes with coloring pages.
We invite you to enjoy entertainment from a time before television became king with our Radio Archaeology Classic Radio Series. And if you want to imagine the lead character as being 7 feet tall with green hair, go right ahead. We're talking Dragnet with Sergeant Joe Friday and Gunsmoke with Marshal Matt Dillon.
Cindy Thompson of Parksville has joined our podcast family with stories about resilience. Be listening for a resilience project.
And then we have a look at municipal politics from an insider's perspective. Parksville Councilors Sean Wood and Joel Grenz host the Nonpartisan Hacks.
You'll find these podcasts and more at thepulsecommunity.ca.
Is that it? Are we done already?
That's another one for the books, Dave.
I'm not sure I'm ready to go home. I don't know if I want to see how my little field of mint is doing.
You mean your little pot of mint?
Pot, field, they're just labels. What's important is that I'd forgotten to water the mint for a little while there, and then when I remembered, I figured pouring on some extra water would help make up for the drought. I might have overwatered a bit. Okay, a lot.
Nonetheless, thanks, folks, for listening. Don't forget to enter to win tickets to Boots and Boats. 3 days of unforgettable music, storytelling, and coastal summer vibes in Denoose Bay.
Coastal summer vibes. Oh, I'm ready for some of that. I need some relief from the stress of plant care.
Dave, it's just mint.
Oh, I hope it can't hear you right now. Wait, you're giving me a funny look. My mint might have trust issues with me right now, but it's okay. We're working on it. Hey, Peter, where are you going? Plants have feelings too. Peter?
Here come Peter, here comes Dave. Oh, listen. Bringing stories, making waves. No missing. Spinning tales in the podcast cave. So laughs and insights everywhere. What a treat. Peter and Dave, they're on the mic, so